Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, today, this is the second night of Ramadan. We'll have just a very short khatira, inshallah. Right now, we're actually in between at-Taraweeh, alhamdulillah. So we're going to be going over, the plan is to go over just a few ayat, inshallah, daily, or even just an ayah that we're going to choose from every chapter of the Quran, every juz of the Quran that we are in that night. So again, we started the first juz the night before the first day of Ramadan. So we are today in the third juz, which is still in Surah Al-Baqarah. So again, we're going to go over, actually today I've chosen a few verses that we're going to go over right in the beginning of the juz, inshallah. And then also the plan is to, inshallah, go over a story from the stories of the different Anbiya, alayhi wassalam. So we're gonna, again, go over just a few verses from every chapter, inshallah, until the end of Ramadan. And then we are gonna go over a small story of one of the Anbiya. And today's messenger or prophet is going to be Idris alayhi salam. So yesterday we went over Adam alayhi salam and Habil and Qabil's story. Today we'll be going over Idris. So Bismillah. First and foremost, I want to ask Allah, inshallah, to bless us and bless you all and bless all of our gatherings. And inshallah, make us or allow us and give us the ability to take full advantage of this blessed month, bi'idhnillah. And on that note of making dua, very quick reminder that subhanallah, of course, there are many times where we know that is more beneficial or Allah is more inclined or likely to answer our dua during these specific times. And one of them is specific to this month. And that is right before you break your fast. So we wonder, why is that? Why is it that Allah is more inclined to answer your dua right before you break your fast? Well, to give you an example, at least an example, and this is a little trick for the youngsters, inshallah. What I used to do when I wanted a special something, a special toy, bike, whatever the case may be, I would wait until it is the end of the term or the end of the semester, whatever the case may be, and I know I got some good grades, alhamdulillah. So I'm waiting until the report card comes in, and after all that hard work that I put in, show my father or my mother, look, this is what I've done, this is all the hard work I've put in. What do you think? What do you think about that bike right now? And alhamdulillah, again, you catch them when they're in that good mood, right? They're proud of you. You put in this hard work. After all the hard work you put in, that's when the ask comes in. So this is a similar analogy to our fasting. Again, we fasted all day long. We've sat all day and we've been praying, inshallah, and reading Quran and making dhikr of Allah. And again, staying away from the very thing that keeps us alive, food and drink. And for who? For the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. So of course Allah is the most pleased with us at that moment. And alhamdulillah, we again gave all this up for who? For the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. So when we ask, again, this is one of the best times for us to take advantage, and inshallah ask Allah. I just want to put that in, especially since we're in the beginning of the month. I want us to all keep this in mind, inshallah, and take advantage of this. So again, we're going to begin, and we're going to, of course, begin at the beginning of the chapter of the third juz of Surah Al-Baqarah. And right at the beginning, verse 255, we see what? But the very, very famous ayah, Ayat al-Kursi. And so, very briefly, I'll just mention a hadith. Obviously, we know this is the greatest ayah, the greatest verse in the entire Quran. And there is a hadith narrated by the Rasul ﷺ, where he stated that whoever recites Ayat al-Kursi immediately after each prescribed prayer, after the 5 daily prayers, there will be nothing standing between him and his entering paradise except death. Subhanallah. So again, simply reading Ayat al-Kursi after every fard, after every prescribed prayer, the only thing standing between us and paradise, yes, this ultimate goal of ours, is death. Subhanallah. So of course this is something simple task, inshallah, but what a great reward we can reap from it. After this, we notice that there are a few stories, specifically 3 stories that are mentioned regarding life and death. First, we have the story between Ibrahim alayhi salam and the king Nimrud, where they had a debate. And Ibrahim alayhi salam told this king, he said, "My Lord is the Lord. He is the one who brings life after death. He is the one that gives life and death." Subhanallah. So what did this person say? What did this King Nimrud say? What did he reply to this? Being the arrogant individual that he is, he says, okay, I can do this as well. I can also bring, life and death. I also have the control of life and death in my hands. So he ordered an individual that was he ordered 2 people that were sentenced to death to come out of jail. He told one, and he was instructed the first to be killed and the other to be set free. So again, in his eyes, he had the control of life and death. And of course, we know only Allah is capable of this. So again, obviously, this is a very, 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 for lack of a better term, a dumb response. And Ibrahim alayhi salam is here talking to him about, again, Rabbi alladhi yuhyi wa yumit. He is the one that gives life. He gives life and causes death. And this man sets a man free and orders a man to be killed, and he thinks he's doing the same thing. Wal-iyadu billah. Again, Ibrahim alayhi salam is, he realized there's no point with this guy. This person, I'm going to drop this argument. I'm not going to take it any further. I'm going to make it impossible for this individual to refute. So what does he say? قال إبراهيم فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأت بها من المغرب فبهت الذي كفر. He said, indeed Allah brings up the sun from the east, so bring it up from the west. So the disbeliever was overwhelmed by astonishment. And he couldn't say anything. And you're here, you want to tell me that you give life and you cause death? Allah khalas. If you're the all-powerful, bring up the sun from the opposite direction. And he couldn't. So of course he was overwhelmed. The second story is the story of a man who came upon a town that was completely abandoned. Completely abandoned. Fallen into ruin. And he looked at it and he thought to himself and he said, قَالَ أَنَّا يُحْيِي هَذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. Listen very carefully to the way he phrases it though. He said, how will Allah bring this to life after its death? So very importantly, he did not say, can Allah do this? Is it possible for Allah to bring life after death? No. However, he's asking to himself, he's wondering, how is this even possible? So what does Allah do to teach him, to show him? He ends up making this person die, stay 100 years, and then he brought him back to life. So he killed him, or he caused him to die, stay 100 years, and then brought him back to life. And then he asked him, how long were you dead for or asleep? He said, a day or so. يوماً أو بعض يوم. He said, no, you've actually been asleep for 100 years. 100 years. Look at your food and your drink. It has not changed with time. Subhanallah. Again, his food has stayed there for 100 years. It did not change. And look at your donkey. And we will make you a sign for the people. Look at the bones of this donkey, how we raise them and we cover them with flesh, and then we make it. And when it became clear to him, he said, I know that Allah is over all things competent. So again, that's the second story regarding death, life and death. Third story, again, goes back to Ibrahim alayhi salam, where Ibrahim alayhi salam actually asked Allah to show him how he gives life to the dead. He said, the ayah begins بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذ قال إبراهيم ربي أرني كيف تحيي الموتى. Show me how you give life to death. So what did Allah say to this? He said, قال أولم تؤمن? He said, Allah Azza wa Jal said, have you not believed? And Allah specifically said, أولم تؤمن. This wow is very specific here. Almost as to say, you of all people, and Ibrahim alayhi said, you don't believe? What did he say? قال بلى. He said, yes. ولكن ليطمئن قلبي. But I only ask so that my heart will be satisfied. So Allah then orders Ibrahim alayhi salam to take 4 birds to train them. Back in the days, they didn't have instant text messaging and all the other ways of reaching one another. Specifically, I should mention WhatsApp, I guess. Probably the most popular, especially with our mothers. May Allah bless them all. And so, what they used to do back in those days is they used to take these birds and teach them how to send messages. And to go, they would tie a message to their feet and have them send along messages. So what Allah Azza wa Jal instructed Ibrahim to do is what? Is to sit here and train these birds. And then take these birds and take the different parts of their body and place them. He was in the middle of an area filled with hills, and he told them, okay, take these group of body parts and put it on this hill, and these pieces on this hill, and these pieces on this hill. The heads on this hill, the wings on this hill, the feet on this hill, this, that, and the next. And subhanAllah, then he instructed him to go and to call onto them so that they may come rushing towards him. And so they did. SubhanAllah. To teach him what? Teach him that again, Allah most assuredly, without a doubt, Allah is the one that gives life and causes death, and none other than Him. Last point in regards to these verses. Directly after that, after Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about life and death, what does He do? But He gives us, subhanAllah, actually the rest of the ayat, or majority of the rest of the ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah are referring to money. So right after this, Allah starts speaking about giving in charity. However, this seems a little bit of an awkward transition, does it not? First Allah بيتكلم عن الحياة والموت. First He's talking about life and death, and then He's talking about giving in sadaqah and charity. Why did Allah do this? Well, of course, as we know, there's always a reason. So, real quickly, Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about money in 3 regards after this point in Surah Al-Baqarah. First, He speaks about the best. When it comes to dealing with money, He speaks about the best way, which is giving in charity, sadaqah. This is the best. And then He speaks about the worst way to deal or to have dealings with money, and that is riba, interest. And then He speaks about the middle, which is halal business and loan transactions. And He speaks about the way that these should be dealt with and how you're supposed to write down things anytime you take a loan from another individual, so on and so forth. So again, why is it that there's this seemingly strange transition? Well, brothers and sisters, it is because Allah Azza wa Jal wants us first to believe in life and death. Allah wants us to first, again, He wants us to acknowledge, He wants us to fully believe that it is He who gives life and causes death. And then, after we fully believe in this, then He speaks about dealing with money. Why? Because He wants us, subhanAllah, and all of His hikmah and His wisdom, to then realize that this world is a very temporary world. And so that we may wisen up and invest in this world and the next. We take advantage, we take advantage in this world, alhamdulillah. There's nothing wrong with being successful, is there? Is there anything wrong with going out and working hard? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Many of the Sahaba were very, very successful businessmen. However, Allah wants us to realize that just as important, actually more importantly, much more importantly, is our investment in al-akhirah. So again, Allah reminds us about al-haya wal-maut, and then He speaks to us about money so that we may remember to also think about our akhirah Again, these are the verses regarding this chapter. Inshallah, bidnillah. Tomorrow we'll make it a little bit shorter to not take up too much time. Inshallah, I just thought this was packed with a lot of beautiful verses, and to be completely honest, it was hard to pass upon these ayat and to not speak about them. So lastly, inshallah, we'll speak about the story of Nuh alayhi salam, Idris alayhi salam, very, very briefly, and just mention a specific part of his life, and that is the end of his life. See, Idris alayhi salam, he had a friend of the angels, amongst the angels. And so he knew that Idris alayhi salam, subhanallah, that of course, the more time that one has, the more possibility he has to do good deeds. To do good deeds. So he thought to himself, yani, if I lived longer, I can do more good deeds. Sah wala la? The longer I live, the more opportunity I have to do good deeds. Sah wala la? So what did Idris alayhi salam do? He asked this angel to take him up. He said to carry him up to the heavens so that he may ask Allah to extend his life, to give him a longer life. Subhanallah. And so they climbed together until they reached the fourth heaven. And then when they reached the fourth heaven, who did they see there? Subhanallah.
Malik al-Maut.
Naam, Malik al-Maut. And Malik al-Maut was, subhanallah, almost confused. And when he approached them, he said, I was confused when Allah had told me. He instructed me to come and take the soul of Idris alayhi salam in the fourth heaven. And I thought to myself, how am I going to take his soul from the fourth heaven when he's on earth? How is that even possible? Subhanallah. But here you are in front of me. So he took his soul, and we know we know also that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also met Idris alayhi salam on the fourth heaven during the night journey or the Salah al-Mi'raj. So just a quick point from this is the fact that, and we realize, subhanallah, that no matter what, our death is written already. Not only when, but where, and all these circumstances pertaining to our death is already written. So, subhanallah, it is in our best interest, rather than sitting there and wanting a longer life, to pray that Allah gives us the ability to take full advantage of every second we have, and then we act upon it. Again, we have the perfect opportunity here in Ramadan to take full advantage of it, to wake up that last third of the night, to make dua to Allah, to constantly read the Quran. Again, this is the holy month of Ramadan, the holy month of the Quran. This is when the Quran was sent down. We take full advantage of this month, inshallah. So again, inshallah, this is the khatira for today. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll begin looking at the fourth juz. Inshallah, we'll also take one or maybe more than one. Inshallah, again, I'll try to keep it as short as possible, and just pick out some gems from these ayat and these verses, so we may reflect on this whole Quran. And we'll look tomorrow into the story of Nuh alayhi salam. Again, just a short glimpse in the life of Nuh alayhi salam. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وجزاكم الله خيرا.